The pie truck sat at the edge of a gravel lot on the outskirts of Hollis, Kentucky, a town so small that everyone knew the sound of its engine before. They saw its faded blue paint. Jonah Cole had built that truck with his own hands 3 years ago, after the bank took the diner his father had run for 30 years. He called it Hollis and Son, though there was no son yet to speak of, only the hope that someday the name would mean something more than just a memory of his father's voice telling him that pie could fix almost anything. Business had been slow that autumn. The leaves had turned early, and the cold had come faster than usual, and fewer people lingered on Main Street long enough to smell the cinnamon and butter drifting from his window. Jonah counted his register twice some nights, hoping the second count would be kinder than the first. It never was. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the boy showed up, 7 years old with a gap in his front teeth and eyes too serious for his age. He stood at the counter for a long moment, staring at the pies cooling on the rack before he finally spoke. "How much for a slice of the apple one?" $3, Jonah said, already reaching for a plate out of habit. The boy's face fell just slightly, in the way children try to hide disappointment and fail. He dug into his pocket and pulled out a single crumpled dollar and some change that didn't look like it. Added up to much more. "Can I pay you tomorrow?" he asked. "I promise I will. My mom gets paid Friday." Jonah looked at him, at the way his sneakers were a size too big, probably handed down, and at the careful, practiced dignity in the way he asked instead of begged. Something in Jonah's chest went soft and stubborn at the same time. "Tell you what," Jonah said, sliding a slice onto a plate. "This one's on the house. No charge. But you gotta promise me something." The boy's eyes lit up. "Anything. You gotta tell me if it's the best pie you ever had." The boy grinned, revealing that gap-toothed smile fully now, and dug in without another word of protest. Jonah watched him eat, chin propped on his hand, feeling something he hadn't felt in longer than he wanted to admit. Usefulness, maybe, or the quiet joy of having given something that cost him little, but meant everything to someone else. The boy's name was Eli, he learned, and he lived 2 streets over with his mother, in the yellow house with the porch swing that had been there longer than either of them. Eli came back the next day and the day after that, always with exact change this time, always insisting on paying, even though Jonah would have gladly kept feeding him for free. It was the 4th day when Eli's mother came instead of him. She walked up to the truck in a blue dress that moved like it remembered better days, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, a canvas bag slung over one arm. She had the kind of face that looked like it had learned to smile through difficulty, lines at the corners of her eyes that spoke of worry more than laughter, though there was warmth there too, buried under caution. "You're the pie truck man," she said, and it wasn't quite a question. "Eli hasn't stopped talking about you, or your pie." "Jonah," he said, extending a flour-dusted hand. "And you must be the mother of the toughest negotiator I've met all year." She laughed, a real laugh, surprised out of her. Sarah Whitfield. "I wanted to come thank you. He told me what you did, giving him that first slice for free. You didn't have to do that." "Didn't have to," Jonah agreed. "Wanted to." "There's a difference." Sarah studied him for a moment, the kind of look that measured a person against every disappointment she'd already cataloged in her life, and seemed cautiously to find him wanting less than she expected. "He's been through a lot," she said, almost to herself. "His father passed 2 years ago. Car accident. It's just been the 2 of us since." She said it plainly, without asking for pity, the way people speak of things. "They've already grieved through and come out the other side of scarred but standing." "I'm sorry," Jonah said, and meant it. "I lost my dad 3 years back myself. Different circumstance, but I know something about the shape that leaves behind." Something shifted between them then, some recognition of shared weather, the kind that only people who have stood in a particular kind of storm can offer each other. Sarah bought 2 slices that day, one for herself and one to bring home for later, though Jonah suspected the second one was really just an excuse to come back. She did come back, not every day, but often enough that Jonah began arranging his schedule loosely around the hours she might appear, telling himself it was foolish even as he did it. She worked as a receptionist at the town clinic, she told him one afternoon, and before that she'd been in nursing school. Before, Eli came early and unexpected and changed the shape of every plan she'd made. She'd given up the degree, at least for now, to keep the lights on and the boy fed. There was no bitterness in the way she said it, only the tired honesty of someone who had made peace with hard choices. "You ever think about going back?" Jonah asked one evening, as the 2 of them sat on the truck's fold-down step, watching Eli chase fireflies in the last of the daylight. "Every day," Sarah admitted. "But every day there's rent, and there's Eli's shoes, and there's 100 other things that come first." "That why you never smile all the way?" Jonah asked, gentler than the words might have sounded from someone else. Sarah turned to him, startled, and then something in her face cracked open just slightly. like a window letting in air after being shut too long. I don't know when I stopped, she said quietly. Somewhere between the funeral and the second job. I forgot how. Well, Jonah said, I make it my personal mission to remind people, free of charge, same as pie. She laughed again, and this time it reached her eyes fully, and Jonah thought it might be the finest thing he had witnessed in 3 years of standing in that gravel lot. Winter came harder that year and business slowed further, but something else grew in its place. Sarah and Eli became fixtures in Jonah's days, the boy helping him wipe down counters in exchange for the end pieces of pie crust. Sarah lingering longer each visit, telling him about her day, asking about his. Jonah found himself saving the best slices, the ones with the flakiest crust, without ever admitting to himself why. It was Eli who said it first, one cold December evening, swinging his legs from the truck's step. You should marry my mom. Then we could have pie every day and you could live with us and it wouldn't be so quiet at night. Eli! Sarah's face went red, mortified, but Jonah just laughed, a warm sound that filled the space between the three of them. Well, he said, crouching down to Eli's level, your mom's a pretty smart lady. Reckon she's the one who'd have to say yes to something like that. Sarah wouldn't meet his eyes for the rest of that visit, but she came back the next day anyway, and the day after that, and slowly the careful distance between them narrowed into something neither of them named, but both of them understood. It was Sarah who finally spoke plainly, on a night in early spring, when the gravel lot smelled like rain, and the first green was pushing up along the fence line. Eli had fallen asleep in the truck's front seat, worn out from a day of running errands with them both. I need to tell you something, Sarah said, her voice low, careful. That day you gave Eli that first pie for free. I want you to know what that did. Not just for him, for me. Sarah, you don't have to. Let me finish, she said, and he did. I had stopped believing there were men left in this world who gave without expecting something back. Every man I'd met since my husband died wanted something. My time, my body, my grief turned into their comfort. You just gave a lonely little boy a slice of pie and asked for nothing but honesty. About how it tasted, her voice caught. You were the first kind man I'd met in years, Jonah. Maybe ever. And I didn't know how badly I needed to meet someone like that until I did. Jonah felt his throat tighten, the weight of her words settling into him like warmth after a long, cold spell. I wasn't trying to be anything, he said. I just saw a kid who needed a little grace, and I had some to spare. That's exactly what made it matter, she said. You didn't perform it. You just were it. He reached for her hand then, hesitant at first, and she let him take it, her fingers cold from the evening air, warming slowly in his grip. I'm not a rich man, Jonah said. This truck's about all I've got, and some days it barely pays for itself. But I've got more patience than most, and I make a mean pie crust, and I would spend every day trying to make sure you and that boy in there never doubted there was good left in the world. Sarah's eyes filled, not with the tears of old grief this time, but something newer, something that looked almost like relief. That's more than most men offer with a lot more money, she said. Pie truck money isn't much, Jonah said, smiling, but the offer's still good. They stood there a long while in the gravel lot, the truck's string lights swaying gently overhead, the town of Hollis quiet and sleeping around them. And when Jonah finally leaned down to kiss her, it felt less like a beginning and more like something that had already been true for months, only now being spoken aloud. Spring turned to summer, and summer to another autumn, and the pie truck stayed parked in that same gravel lot, though now there was a hand-painted sign beside the window that read, Hollis and Son, and because Eli had insisted on it, and Jonah, standing beside Sarah with the boy's hand in his, could not have argued even if he'd wanted to. Business never made them rich, but some nights, counting the register, Jonah found the number didn't matter nearly as much as it once had. Because waiting for him at the yellow house with the porch swing were two people who had taught him that. The truest kind of wealth had nothing to do with what filled a cash drawer, and everything to do with what filled a home. And every single day, without fail, Eli got his slice of pie, free of charge, same as it had always been. Because some promises were never meant to expire.